Hello, welcome to today's Plaza TV broadcast, our very first in a brand new series that we're calling Green Room Conversations here at Plaza Theater Company. We're so glad you've joined us today. My name is Jason Barrus. I'm the artistic director here at Plaza Theater Company, and it's my privilege to welcome you today. I'm sitting inside our theater, Plaza Theater Company here at Dudley Hall. I am by myself, but I'm excited to be welcoming in some guests to be joining us during today's live stream. So with Green Room Conversations, as you might guess from the name, we're going to actually be bringing in some folks to our virtual green room here, and we're going to be having a conversation together. And we thought for the very first broadcast today that it might be fun for us to go all the way back to the beginnings of Plaza Theater Company, to our roots, if you will. And we're going to bring in cast members from the very first production that we ever brought to the folks here in Cleburne at Plaza Theater Company. And that is a show called You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which opened on April 26th of 2007 at our first location, which was at Plaza Main Street, 208 South Main was our very first home. We're going to talk about some of the fun and crazy things that went on as we were putting up this show. But I'm very excited to introduce you to some of the great folks we have joining us today from all over the country. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. So I'm going to start by bringing on board Kyle Adams. Kyle, if you'll join us. How are you, good sir?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing very well. It's wonderful to see you. Glad to have you here with us today. So Kyle was a member of that first cast. Kyle, tell us who you played and how you came to being a part of that show.
I played Linus. How did I come to be a part of that show? You just liked me for whatever reason. I met Jason and Tina and Aaron and Milette all the way back in 2005 doing Big River Artists and Center Theater. And of course, just like everybody else, when you meet Jason and Tina and Aaron and Milette, you're addicted and you have to stick with them for years and years and years and years.
Aww.
And so I had the privilege and the pleasure of being asked to be a part of this experience. We first started with Man with the Pointed Toes as the bid show, and then came back for You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And so that's how they got stuck with me for a long time.
And Kyle was a fantastic Linus. We'll talk some more about that here in a bit. Kyle, so great to see you and glad to have you here.
Good to see you.
Also, let's bring on Kurt Mega. Kurt's joining us from California. How are you doing,
Hello.
Kurt?
I'm doing okay. This is really cool. One of the cool things about the horrible thing of all this like stuff happening, it's been really cool to reconnect with people like in this way. So this is awesome.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. So tell us, first of all, tell us how old you were when you were doing that show and who you played for us, of course, and how you came to be a part of that production.
Okay, I guess it was 2007, so I would have been 19, I think. I played Snoopy, and gosh, I think I had done a few shows with you guys at Artisan, and yeah, I think it was one of those things where I've loved the Peanuts and Charlie Brown for my entire life. And so when you guys were like, hey, do you want to come be involved in this? I remember us rehearsing it at this theater that I was involved in called Cats. And like, I remember us being in like a lobby and like rehearsing it. And the most confusing thing was being like, what is this space going to look like? And where are we going to be? And it was, I was so thrilled to get to work with you guys. You guys are some of my favorite people in the world, and truly one of the most joyful memories I have in theater still.
I do have to make a memory of Kurt had this ginormous tome of all of the comic strip from the Peanuts going all the way back, just immersing himself in there every day, wanting to capture Snoopy's every expression, every movement.
I named my cat Linus because of how much I love Charlie Brown. So that gives you any indication. That show is very near and dear to my heart, and mostly because of working with you guys.
Oh, thank you, sir. All right, we'll talk some more about that as well. We're going to bring in, Kurt was double cast in that role, so that meant that he shared the role with another actor. So if Kurt's on the West Coast, we're going to bring in Wes Borland, who's going to join us from the East Coast out there in New York City. Wes, how are you, sir?
Mute my mic. I'm good. How are
There
you?
you are.
All right.
Doing really well. Glad to have you here.
Thank
so tell
you.
us how you came to be a part of your
Sure.
good man, Charlie
So
Brown.
I think you're going to hear a little bit of a theme here. I also obviously met Jason and Tina, and actually met everyone in this cast. Originally doing Big River at Artisan, and did Seven Brides, I think, with pretty much everyone again that summer, and so that was kind of my connection. I assume everyone watching is at least somewhat familiar with the geography of the Metroplex. So I was in Denton at the time. I was studying theater at UNT, and got a call. I remember this very vividly for some reason. I was in the North Texas Library, and they said, and it was Tina, and Tina said, "I know you're going to say no to this because of the drive." But would you have interest? We talked to Kurt. He can do part of the shows. Would you have interest in, just doing a couple of them? And I said, yeah. I can't believe you didn't ask me already. so that was how I got into it. I remember rehearsing. I don't remember whose apartment, but we definitely rehearsed in an apartment a couple of times in the Fort Worth area before heading down, and just very vivid memories of building a theater at the same time as putting up a show.
Yeah,
that's right.
And the polls.
Oh, we'll talk about those polls. We'll talk about them. Let's see. So I know as well that we have Aaron Siler here. Let's bring in Aaron.
Hey, everybody.
He's joining. I
Hey.
see the circle spinning. He's coming in. It's going to happen. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Aaron, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I think that's the real question.
I can now, yes.
Well, let me do this. I think there, maybe that's a little better. You see, Jason and I are both on the same network, and it looks like the internet's a great thing, and maybe the internet decided to cut us out briefly, but it happens.
Well, hang on for just a sec, because right now all we're hearing is computer distortion. How about now?
Oh, yeah, I got you now.
There you are. Okay, excellent.
Good.
So, of course, Aaron is the director of operations here at Plaza Theater Company. And so many of you that are tuning in have probably seen Aaron in dozens and dozens of different roles that he's played here at Plaza over the years. In the case of Kurt and Wes and Kyle, they've gone on and moved different places, as I've mentioned before, and done things all over. Whereas Aaron and I have pretty much remained here over the last 13 plus years. But the very first part Aaron played for us in a full-time show was Charlie Brown, and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. So tell us about how you came to that role, Aaron, and being part of that show.
Well, when we first started, it was just us. And it was interesting because we weren't from Cleburne. And so we were moving out here, starting completely fresh in this building here at 208 South Main. Look at that building sitting there. Anyway, and it was it was abandoned when we moved in, but I say abandoned, it had been vacant. Let's say that, it's a better word. But it was a weight center. They were doing some weightlifting and stuff in there. So there were mirrors on one side of the wall, and we kind of put that together and made that happen. So that was, kind of an interesting thing. And we were just kind of casting ourselves because we didn't know anyone that were in Cleburne. And so I'm going to try to bring in these guys again. So we were just casting, these guys. Our friends. We're like, our friends, please. We know you're going to say no, but will you please do it anyway?
That is exactly right. So these are the folks who are with us now as we're going along. Aaron's wife, Milette, played Lucy for us in that show. And I'm husband to Tina, and she played Sally for us in that show. And they're both going to be joining us here as we go along shortly as well. And
actually, it looks like Tina is online right now. If you want to bring
wonderful.
her in.
Here she is.
Okay,
right.
Here we go with Tina.
Hello, dear. How are you?
Good. Good.
Are you actually driving while you're streamcasting with us?
No, I just pulled into the park because I wasn't that talented, but I did make it out of Walmart okay.
All right. So you survived that fun experience. Well, we're so glad that you're here. So can you see all the other folks that have joined us today? We've got
Look at our friends. Oh my gosh, I miss you guys. It's crazy. We've got people from all over the country now on this.
I know we're coast to coast today, which is kind of fun.
We get coast to coast. That's awesome.
But Tina, I was just telling the folks, played Sally for us in this show, and she actually came to the cast in a very unique way. So Tina, kind of tell us how that happened, how you became a part of that show.
By default, which is kind of what Aaron was saying in the beginning. A lot of it was just, who we could get. And we really wanted, for Sally, we really wanted the talented Mary Claire to do the part. We thought she would be fantastic in the role. But Mary Claire ended up not being able to do it. And so, ta-da! Step in, one of the directors, and you're in a part.
That's exactly right. How much time did you have from when we put you in the show to when we actually opened? I know that Mary Claire rehearsed with us for a little bit.
Holy cow, that was a long time ago. I can't even remember. I don't know. I mean, she gave us a good amount of notice. It's been worse for me. I've stepped in much less.
With much less time, yeah.
So I felt like I had enough time to learn it. Just, the confidence of knowing that Mary Claire would have been so wonderful, but it was fun to get to be a part of the first show.
Yeah, Aaron has some really fun history videos. I will preface this by saying that we were busy putting up a brand new show for the first time and building a theater from the ground up. We actually we rehearsed in an empty concrete box of a room while we were building the risers and the seats. So we weren't really focused on getting photos and videos as we've looked back, but we do have a few, and Aaron's going to put up just a few so we can talk about what we looked like. Oh, there we are.
There we are. So the crazy thing is, this is the only cast shot that we have, even though Wes is also in the show. So one thing that we did, I was just having some fun, and I was like, hey, here's the picture of Goodman Charlie Brown, and Wes saw, oh yeah, I can see me in that picture, right? He's not really in there. So just for fun, I put his face in there. Wow.
I remember this one. That's me from Secret Garden, actually, at Plaza.
Yeah.
A little later.
I love this picture. When I look at this photo, there are a couple things that pop into my head, and then I'll ask anybody else what they think. First, I love the costumes. Tina, I think you designed all these costumes and built them. And I think you used puff glue on several of those stripes and lines because you wanted them to have kind of a dimensional, cartoony effect.
Yeah, puffy paint.
Yeah.
The polka dots on that dress was painted on with Walmart puffy paint.
Yeah, and my shirt there too, that green and blue shirt. I remember those stripes being made with that same puffy paint. And the other is Eden in the picture there. She just turned 18 and is graduating this year. If you guys didn't know that, there you go. That's how long ago this is. But in this picture, she was 5 years old, and she played Woodstock for us in the shop. So we were hoping Team was going to be able to get home so Eden could join her, and we'll see if that happens, so people can see her as a now 18-year-old. As you guys look at this picture, do you have any thoughts that come to mind?
That's just some of you guys are on mute, so just unmute yourselves if you got something to say.
The craziest thing to me that comes to mind is this is something I've carried with me literally in what I do every day now with my life, is the idea that at no point did anybody stop and go, what are we doing? This is crazy. Like, there was just this communal, like, Wes brought it up when he said that Tina was like, I know this is too far. And he's like, I'm doing it. That's kind of how I felt. It was like, we were just going to do it. And I think you guys, Jason, Tina, Milette, Aaron, like, at least in me, instilled that idea that if you bring a group of people together with a vision, you'll get it, you'll make it, you'll create it. Because you think about the logistics of it, and it just sort of goes, who, and yet we just made it happen. And that's something I've taken with me like literally every day of my life since then. So that's my sentimental take. But also I remember that there's nobody in the audience too.
I remember the day we had 20 people in the audience and we were all like, oh my gosh, there's people sitting on all four sides.
Yeah.
It's so hard in theater in the round. I remember trying to, I think it was Kyle and I having to redo our blocking because we were supposed to face a certain side and nobody was there. Nobody was there. So we had to re-choreograph on the go.
One of my favorite memories that is sort of, I feel like, such a testament to like what Plaza has done in Cleburne and just in the Metroplex is I remember being there for, I don't remember what it was, but there was some kind of like, we were like handing out flyers. I remember they were pink flyers and I remember handing it to somebody and going, and somebody legitimately, this is not me making fun of anybody at all, like any stereotypes, but they were like, what? A theater? And I said, yeah, we're doing a show. And they said, like a movie? I said, no, it's a show. Like we're there. And they're like a movie. I realized like the people that we were talking to legitimately had never seen a show before. Like they didn't even know what theater was. And when I think about now, the fact that you guys have been able to, I mean, just sell out so many shows and have season ticket holders, it's an amazing thing to me to think that like you were able to introduce theater into a place where maybe not a lot of people had actually been able to experience live theater. That's really cool. But I'll never forget handing that flyer to that woman, and she was so baffled.
Actually, Kurt, it was at Springfest.
Oh, it's right. Yeah.
And we were giving out free tickets. It was a free ticket. She would not take it from you. She would not take that free ticket. Anything to do with it.
So we got someone else, actually. We have another member of our cast here to join us. I can only do 6 on a screen, so let me pull up.
Yeah.
Excellent. There's Milette. How are you, Milette?
I'm also excellent.
It's good to see you. So we've got this whole crew of folks here with us today, and they've all introduced themselves and they told us how they came to being a part of our first production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Will you introduce yourself and tell the folks how you got started in the show?
I sure will. My name is Milette, and I was in it from the beginning. I was there. So I played Lucy the Tyrant. That's who I was, right? It just seemed like a natural fit. So yeah, it's good to see everyone.
So one of the things I remember really clearly about the process, and of course the last week as we were putting the show up, we were frantically building the theater, putting in seats, putting in lights, doing all the things we had to do to make it possible to do a show. And from the start, we were a team, Aaron, Milette, Tina, and I, and we were trying to handle where all the different hats that it was going to take to put up a show. And I remember so clearly that we were rehearsing the show. I believe it was Tuesday before we opened on Friday, and you got so sick.
I did.
I remember you were very ill, so much that you were not able to, I think, rehearse with us the next night because you were so ill. And I remember you had this terrible fever, and the fever was making its way as you were trying your best to rehearse. Is my memory right? Is that true?
No, I had probably the most sick I've ever been in my life. Yes, I'd come to rehearsal one night, and it was the first night working with my costume, and I was sweating profusely. And Tina, who was, wearing many, many hats in the show, of course, as everyone was, and the costumer, she's like, man, I got to get her some sweat guards. She is a sweater. And I'm like, I don't usually sweat this much. I don't know what's wrong. I felt like Pedro in Napoleon Dynamite, and like next step was shaving my head. Yeah, I was very, very ill. Tina was very kind and brought over some soup and things to our house the next day. And I guess I looked really bad because she just backed away and was like, "Can I leave this? See you later." Yeah,
I remember we were all really worried.
Yeah, I had a conversation with you, Jason, as the director. I don't know if you remember. I said, I can either do the choreography or I can sing. I cannot do both. So you pick which one you want. But hey, we got it done.
We did. We got there.
Yeah, it worked.
One of my favorite stories about opening comes from Kyle too. Kyle, the very first night we had gotten everything together, at least we thought we had, and I basically went out, I think, to give a speech to the audience to get the show started, or a curtain speech. And as I was out there, I could see all of the fluorescent lights in the theater popping on and off and on and off, and we had not actually been able to run it by turning off the house lights and turning on the stage lights at that point yet. And we had billed this as our grand opening, and so we actually had some people there that first night. I think maybe 30 or 40 people, and I remember going backstage. And so, why don't you tell from your perspective what you saw there, Kyle?
Oh, did we lose Kyle?
So that, you know, if it was me that gave Milette that sickness, because we had our own version of COVID-19, let's be real honest, that time. Because I
didn't want to say it.
sick too, and I was out for about a week and a half. And at the time, in the space, thinking, oh, we're going to have a theater. And I walk in, and it's just this bare space with mirrors all around. And I thought, really? We're going to build a theater in 2 weeks? So I remember the sound system did not come in until the Wednesday before we had preview on Thursday. So Karen was frantically trying to learn how to use the sound system. So opening night, all that was happening. And we get out for the opening number, first thing out of the hat, and 2 songs are playing at once. I'm dancing to one song, and I turn and I see Milette dancing to another song, and I'm thinking, oh, this is not going to go well. And after it was over, we just ran off stage in the darkness, and I went back stage, and I see Jason up against the wall going. And I'm thinking, oh, no, we're in for a long night. And we had some glitches that first preview night, but then the next night, it was flawless in front of a reviewer. And that is probably one of my fondest memories ever.
I remember that review, and the reason I remember it is that critic was ready to criticize us. He had come from, I think, from outside the city. I'm not sure if it was from Burleson. That my memory doesn't really serve where he came from, but he had come basically to criticize our show. And as you say, we had barely gotten it together. And he came and saw the show. And then afterwards, he asked if he could sit down with us. And the whole cast met with him in the theater. And we sat with him while he told us how impressed he was. Oh, is that the Times Review? My eyes are letting me down. Yeah, it looks like the Times Review. He told us how impressed he was and amazed that we were able to accomplish this. Of course, if he'd come the night before, he wouldn't have seen the same show, as Kyle points out. But he did end up saying that he was amazed with the show that we were able to create in such a short time. All right. So, Wes, do you have any memories that have popped into your head as we've been going along here?
Oh, absolutely. So as soon as you asked me to do this, I was kind of reflecting on what I remembered most. And I had 2 things. And I feel like I'll start with the smaller one first, because I feel like the second one is going to come up with a lot of people. There's a moment in the show where Snoopy and Sally just stare at each other. And it's just this long pause and silence, and I forget the lines that come into it. You know, you're a dog, something, something, and I just remember that getting longer and just Tina and I just squaring off until closing night. I mean, I was at the point where I would just watch the corner of her mouth until it started to twitch, and then as soon as that happened, I would go on because I didn't want her to break. But I think closing night, it ended up being about 30 seconds of silence. I mean, it was, and you could hear the audience just kind of like, so that's one of them. The other one, and I know this is the story that I think every time I come back down and see everybody gets brought up, is the night, to Kurt's point, that people decided that they wanted to have a conversation with the cast while we were in the middle of the show, and talk to us or talk about us while the show was going on. very, very openly, as if it were a movie in their living room. So, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
that lady. I remember exactly where she was sitting.
Me
Milette and I
too.
were doing the Schroeder Lucy scene, and she said she turns to her friend and goes, "That's not a real piano."
I
Well spotted.
I don't remember. I should probably go back and reread the script at some point. But Kyle and I had a scene together at one point that was just the two of us, and I remember we were standing basically blocked to stand basically right in front of her, and she was like, "That's paint on his shirt," and just couldn't and said it 4 or 5 times, which just that's paint on his shirt. Was just talking to her neighbor, and so yeah, that's one of my. I think those are the two things that really jump out, and then just like you said, just the general, kind of babes in arms, let's put up a show vibe of it, where there really wasn't. But it didn't. I mean, that makes it sound like it sacrificed quality. I think one of the things is we were still striving to put on a show that was in a theater that had been established for 10 years. I mean, it wasn't like we went, we can gloss over that. I mean, it was still the push to still have perfection, and we got there. Just we got there the night of. So.
I think you're right. I mean, I think we were all very proud of that show, and felt that we had a quality show that we put out there, even though we were just like you said, just putting up a show in a found space with poles in the middle of the stage. We still felt good about our show.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think one of my memories is the last time we went on stage at the very end of the run. And if people know the show, they know that the show ends with a lovely little song called "Happiness Is." And I remember us all having spoken together beforehand before doing the show. Perhaps this is a memory that will come back to y'all, but we talked about how happiness was being able to be a part of this first show. And then we all sang that song together. I remember having an extra meaning to that song on that closing night as we sang What Happiness Is, which is, as I say, a really pretty song. So that's an odd memory that I hold dear from that.
I think one of my big takeaways is the fact that so often I think when you're working in the creative arts, you get so hung up in the space and the equipment and the technical of it all. And I think what I go back to over and over, even now that I think about doing this show all the time, is I go, at the end of the day, the theater and the community is built of the people that are making it. And it's like, we could do it on the side of a street. We could do it in an alley. We could do it in a building with some poles, or you can do it in this incredible space you guys have now. But truly, the community is formed with the people around you. And I've taken that with me literally every step of the way and everything I do. When I feel like we don't have enough resources, we don't have all the things, and I go, no, we have everything we need right here. We have these people, and if we have these people, then we'll figure it out.
For those who don't know, both Wes and Kurt have gone on to doing things professionally, while we most of us have remained here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They've gone on, and that's why they live in the places that they do, because they pursued their. Well, they get paid to do it, which here at Plaza they didn't. I will tell you.
Sometimes.
Sometimes we get paid.
Sometimes.
And in fact, I think I just saw, by the way, Kyle just had a book published.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's available online on Amazon. I saw that. Isn't
Go,
that right,
Kyle.
Oh, that's awesome.
Tell us about the book, Kyle. Can you hear me? Kyle, do you hear me? Oh, yeah. I don't think he hears me. Well, I do see now we have on screen here, we've got Tina, who's gotten home, and with her is Eden, who was our little Woodstock in the show. And Eden, as you saw in the first picture, was 5 years old when we did that show. She was a little girl, and we had a fun scene with Woodstock and Snoopy that we did in the show. But here she is, an 18-year-old, an adult now for all intents and purposes, and graduate this year. Woo! And going on to college. And so, Eden, unmute that mic and just tell us a little bit, if you can, in some of your memories of being a part of that show.
I don't really remember anything besides
Fair
I
enough.
really loved my yellow Keds. The shoes I wore, I loved them. But that's all I remember. Yeah, I had to dye those shoes yellow to you couldn't buy yellow shoes. She did love her costume. We had a hard time getting it off of her at the end of the shows because she did like that. I don't even remember the scene. What was the scene?
Does anybody remember? Kurt,
It was
Wes?
she came out during Happiness,
Yeah.
and someone handed her a balloon.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but that's what I remember. I have the memory
Yeah.
of her standing with the balloon on stage.
Yeah.
At the end.
That's exactly right. Aaron, is Kyle still with us, or has he stepped away for a minute?
It looks like he had to step away. We've had some issues with his internet connection.
Gotcha.
But one thing that was also really great is just what was it in 2016 or 2015? 2016. We did this show again, and some of the cast came back, and it was our 100th production.
Aw.
If y'all remember that.
Yeah.
And we did a picture there with that cast, and it was anyway, it was a great moment. It's pretty.
It
neat.
was. Oh my gosh! Look at that awesome picture. And some fantastic performers were in that show. It's so neat to see all of the people that played it the first time next to those in the 100th production. What a cool picture. Well, if you will, guys, will you real quickly? As Kyle's back. Kyle, how are you, sir? So glad you're here. So we're so glad you joined us. So we were talking about how you've had a book published here just recently.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. So we'd love it if you'd tell us a little about it and where people can get it.
All right. So yeah, I actually was my first passion was writing, and I used to write when I was a little kid. I was always had something I was writing. Never really finished anything. But then it just reawakened as I became a father and a family man and stayed home. And so it took me 5 years to write a little bit every day, 30 minutes a day on my lunch break. And I just went on ahead and self-published it, and it's available on Amazon. You can just look up The Clock Upon the Wall is what it's called, and it's a mystery. It's about a woman who she's lost her husband several years back, but the story opens in the mysterious disappearance of her son. And there's a strange man that lives in a scary house on top of the hill that is somehow interconnected with the disappearance of her son. And I can't tell you anymore. I'll have to kill you.
So buy the book.
Read it.
There, you can see Aaron's got the link right there. You can go to take a look at Kyle's work. But that is awesome. Congratulations on that, Kyle.
Thank you.
And Wes and then Kurt, will you guys just tell us what work you've been doing, what you've been up to over the last little bit?
I just want to say I just bought Kyle's book. I literally just bought it.
Nice.
Awesome.
I just did the one click and buy. Sorry.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, I moved to New York in 2008. Wow. And have been here since. Took a pretty extended break and really got back into the theater scene about 3 years ago. So I've been doing. I dabble as a musician. So I've actually been doing a lot of pit orchestra work, and a lot of actor musician kind of things, singing and playing. And this previous summer, did my New York directorial debut, which was
Nice.
a smashing success, and actually had some people, weirdly enough, a gentleman from Dallas who wanted to bring it and make it into a bigger production. We were kind of in talks about what that would look like before everything changed in the world. So hopefully we'll move that. It was an off-Broadway show. Hopefully we'll move that to a bigger house. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of that. Doing a lot of writing. I've done, had some short musicals that have I did a reading of a play I wrote, and kind of just written some songs for some people. done some arranging for some theaters. You know, I make a lot of money when there's a 27-piece orchestra and the theater can only afford 6 musicians. Rewriting that for them. That's a big part of what I do. So no, yeah, I kind of carved out a nice little niche. Got married. That was really exciting. My wife's an actress and actually runs a theater company here as well. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. So
awesome. So other than this, the recent challenges, you're out there living the dream.
I am living the dream. It's yeah, it's been fun. So
awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And how about you, Kurt, out there on the West Coast?
Oh, you know, this and that. I moved to LA in 2010 with my wife, who is also a phenomenal actor, who I met in Dallas doing theater together. Yeah, it's been sort of a series, like 3 different chapters of my life here. The first thing I did is I worked on this show called Glee, which is a random like audition that turned into like a 5 or 4 season thing. And
there he is. He's a warbler.
Hey, there I am. And that show opened a ton of doors, and you know, actually opened more doors in the direction. And this is kind of what I was going to say with what I've learned, like from my experience working with you guys, is that, you know, I've been able to work in television and do like different guest stars and stuff on TV shows, which is great. But honestly, it's like not that much fun. I mean, it's fine, but it's like, it's work. But the doors that have opened that I'm most proud of are collaborating with independent creators out here to make theater. I was part of this production called Spies Are Forever a few years ago, which ended up, you know, we did the run, but then we put all of our shows on the internet, and, you know, it's been watched by millions and millions of people, and people from all over the world will, you know, dress up as the characters and all kinds of things. We've gotten to go to conventions and all kinds of stuff. And I just did a show recently with a great group called Team Star Kid, founded by Darren Chris, called Black Friday. I got to do that with Kim. And it's, you know, throughout all of that, it's been the same. I feel like I found you guys out here where it's like, I found people who are like, we don't know exactly how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. We're going to make it work. And we're just going to be like, use our ingenuity and just our passion for this craft. And that's been one of the most rewarding things. And then I also, in the last few years, wrote and directed my first feature film, which I have been slowly editing every day for like 2 hours at night. So hopefully that'll be done soon. And then I also work as an acting teacher and coach. So I teach a lot of acting classes and improv and scene study. And I had a pretty big life change recently where I just stepped away from the studio where I've been working for the last 5 years, and I'm doing it on my own now. Yeah, we cobble it all together. It's the same thing where you're like Tina, you're like, oh, I'll do that. Somebody goes, can you edit? And you go, sure. And then you teach yourself how to do it on YouTube, and then you call yourself an editor. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I do that I didn't ever expect to be doing, but it's that attitude of being like, hey, we can do anything as long as we give ourselves the opportunity to do it. So that's what I'm doing.
Awesome. See, I told you guys are making a living. That's fantastic. Good for you.
I want to add to that a little bit, because I you know, not to get too sappy, but I always credit Jason and Tina with just who I am as a director, and what I learned from that. And, you know, I mean, there's a million things that go into it, but I think you know, if I could summarize your directing style, it's just very much cast good actors and then figure out how to give them what they need to do that. And if it means staying out of their way, stay out of their way. And if it means micromanaging every single movement, yeah, I mean, I think that's been my big takeaway. Is it's just it really is all about how, just about the interpersonal, how you relate to to a given person. I think that's why the shows are just always so quality, and I've just always been amazed just how much comes out of ostensibly so little. And I think that's what it is. It's just the trust and the knowing, just the kind of instinct of what people need and how to get it to them. And so I think, you know, that along with the never say die and you know, set expectations high and people will get there. That's just kind of the aesthetic I've followed too. So I'm if I could be
sappier still, I absolutely would not be doing what I'm doing if I hadn't have like worked with you guys. Like there's no chance that I would even have remotely attempted to do whatever it is that I'm doing. And it's that spirit of, like you said, it's saying like we can do more with less. Because I feel like, especially, and I'm sure in New York it's the same, but especially in LA, it's sort of like everybody's like, well, you know, I need this much money to do any kind of project, and you know, we got to have these actors and we got to have this set. And what I've found that has been opened all the doors for me in my life is taking that spirit from Plaza of like, we'll just make it work. Like we'll get good people and we'll figure it out, and the work will speak for itself, and not try to be something like jump through all these hoops to pretend like we're something we're not, and just be transparent about who we are. And that has completely shaped the way I view my life and everything that I've done. I literally wouldn't be here doing it without you guys.
Oh,
And it makes for better theater when you have, if you have millions and millions of dollars to spend, you spend millions and millions of dollars. And if you have $1,000 to spend, you figure out how to really make an interesting show out of $1,000.
yeah.
And if it's done well, it's way more interesting with constraints.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean,
It's-
you actually have to be creative. You can't just
Yeah.
pay your way. No offense to Broadway. I hope it reopens soon, but
And if Wes and Kurt have gone the professional route, I would have to say that I probably wouldn't be married to the woman I'm married to if I hadn't have been sucked into the theater world by the review. Because I found her in the theater world, and there you go. So, I mean, it's just what a small seed can do. So don't
Same. I wouldn't be married to Kim if not for like doing shows at Plaza, which made me go audition for other stuff. So I'm exactly the same.
There's a bazillion different ways it could go.
Well, thanks, fellas. I'll tell you, when we envisioned this get together, we weren't planning on it being something where you were so kind to us, but that's very generous of you all, and we genuinely appreciate it. Eden, I see you there, and I know, as I mentioned, that you've just turned 18 and finishing up your schooling here this year. Will you quick tell folks what your plans are over the next little bit?
I want to study dance in college, maybe a little bit of music therapy because I love working with children who have special needs. So hopefully something along those lines that can make both of those work. That would be awesome.
And you're taking steps towards doing that, going to school and making that happen? Of course, I already knew that. I'm your dad, after all.
I am so sorry you're having to graduate this year. But you're gonna always remember like that you were able to persevere through this time. Like you'll be able to tell your kids that an insane story.
Because we're doing a graduation. We're doing a homeschool graduation with several other students that are homeschooled in the area that go to Plaza Academy. But we don't have a date yet because we can't figure it out. Like, when are we graduating?
What is time?
It's
Well,
we don't know.
That's a great segue to the next question, and we'll wrap this up here fairly soon. But what do you? I'll just throw this out and let you guys respond. What do you all envision here over the next little while as we're, I will say that to me, the beauty of live theater or live performance is the experience, the shared experience of being a part of a cast and sharing that with an audience and sharing that space together and experiencing that together. And something very powerful about that. And that's why I love this medium so much. But it is also at this time, very threatened by the challenges we're facing with the pandemic. And so what do you all envision as far as this medium or live performance in general going forward?
I think longer term future, I think you're going to see, just from what I see my friends doing and other people doing, there's going to be some amazing stuff in 3 or 4 years because everybody's writing, because everybody's, everyone is, kind of taking the little bit of a pause and finding it. Shorter term, I don't know. I think I'm with you. I've done some Zoom play readings and I'm taking a Zoom acting class and all those things. And it's great, but it's not, it's not there. I hope for the kind of short term, Broadway's been getting a little fancy with itself. And so speaking kind of specifically of like the New York scene, there was a revival of a show very recently that was about 50 to 60% film instead of live. I think you're not.
Would that be West Side Story?
That would be West Side Story.
I saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. It was an interesting take on West Side Story.
Yeah.
But just it has kind of crept back up. This is so kind of fatalistic, but the financial crisis happened, and everybody kind of got back to this attitude of let's just put on something good, and it's kind of crept back into that. It needs to be an experience, and it needs to be the kind of that 80s mega. And I kind of hope we'll get back a little bit to, hey, we don't have 50 million to make a show. We're gonna really have to do it that way. And I think it will. I think we're gonna see I think we're gonna see community theaters thrive. I think we're gonna see smaller regional theaters really thrive where people don't have to travel. And I think ultimately there will be a lot of good work. I just think it's gonna be a little miserable for the next 6 months or so until that all bounces back. But I do think the long run things will be good.
I've seen a huge amount of appreciation. Not that it hasn't been there, but I was supposed to do a show in New York this summer that was of course canceled, and in the wake of that, the support and the love and the reminiscing of what the theatrical experience really means has just been really incredible. And like Wes said, I think and I hope the outcome, despite the pain of it right now, is that people, I truly think when we're able to, will really flock back. But also I think it will be, and I hope it'll last, but I hope it'll stick. But this idea of this is important. This is not just we do theater, whatever. It's no, this is actually, we take it for granted when it's available to us. And I hope that the outcome is that, like you said, community theaters and smaller companies are able to just thrive because people will be wow, we get to do this together. How incredible is this? I'm seeing that happen online, and I sincerely hope that happens once we're able to go back to whatever normal looks like in the future.
To piggyback off of what Wes said, I really feel like this time has been a reset for many people, and they've come home and they've been able to cut out the noise and the distractions and to really realize what's important. Yep. And to have these passions awakened or reawakened, and to me, it's really just kind of highlighted everything that's important for me. And like he said, it's going to take a while for us to move forward out of this, but then once it's back, I think we're going to be better people. I personally don't want to be the same person coming out of this that I was going into it, and that can't be nothing but good for everybody.
Yeah,
agreed.
Well, thanks for your insights on that, gentlemen. I can tell you we're in the process of trying to get our arms around what reopening looks like for us. We're making tentative plans. Of course, they're all dependent on things going a certain direction, and we always have just to remain open to whatever comes. But we are making plans and seeking to try and move forward here as well. And I'll just kind of echo, and in this case, I'll speak for Milette and Aaron and Tina and myself and say, without a doubt, the thing that we take the most joy in, that we enjoy the most about what we do, is the experience of working with the people that we get to work with, and to interact with so many just quality human beings. It's a gift that we honestly do not take lightly, and we talk about often. It's an important part of our discussions, and I will tell you that you guys were very first. You were the ones that did it for us first. And, I loved that show. I thought we did some quality work, particularly given the circumstances. But the thing I take away most is the experience of getting to interact with people of your quality. And even to this day, I just remember that so fondly, that you were willing to take a chance on us, right? Because it was a little crazy.
It's the only way to do it.
It seems to have paid off.
We like it.
Tina, Aaron, do you have any other thoughts?
Woo! Charlie Brown shirt.
My Charlie Brown shirt.
Wow, that's
Oh,
old
you
school
got
Charlie
it.
Brown shirt there.
Look at that.
Old school.
Oh,
I have
vintage.
my See How They Run shirt in my closet.
My Charlie Brown shirt is in a box on its way to be made into a quilt.
Oh, cool.
Big River, and a couple of others. So
I'm pretty
Awesome.
sure ours became paint shirts. To be honest.
Yeah, we have a lot of paint shirts. I gotta tell you a quick story because Kurt brought it up. So he directed for us first a production of See How They Run.
First thing I ever
Which is that
directed.
shirt. And,
Again, you guys entrusted me with that. I wouldn't
To
direct
this-
now if it wasn't for that.
to this day in the Plaza lexicon, there is a phrase that still exists because of Kurt Mega. He was sitting in the audience and he had given some direction about how he wanted a scene played. And so the actress played the scene and she got done and we all paused and Kurt from the audience yelled out, "Lame!" And so to this day, whenever we want to put something down, we all yell, "Lame!"
And I still say that.
I don't know if that actress ever recovered. I'll say that.
Wait, did you just say you still do that when you're
Oh yeah,
directing?
when I coach and teach, if I'm not getting what if I'm clear about what I've been like this, and I feel like they're not trying, I go lay. Yeah, I should rethink that note. I don't know how helpful that is actually.
Well, I want to close with, would any of you guys be willing to talk about what it was like acting at 208 South Main with poles in the middle of the stage? These are legendary.
Oh dear.
Oh,
I think there was a phrase. Was it called "embrace the pole"? Did we say
Embrace
that?
the
That was it. Embrace the
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
think
think that came about because every single one of us at one time or other ran into one of those poles. And I know that I almost busted some teeth out in Oklahoma because of those two poles. Trying to get away from Lori or, you know.
I think it was in Beauty and the Beast that I just was like, well, Gaston will use these to like prop himself. Like I just was like, I'm just gonna use this. Like it's a thing, and I'm gonna use it, and it's here, and it's now part of the set. Instead of like trying to deny it, but it was a strange thing.
I think that is, again, not to get like really heady about it, but I mean, it was a good lesson in audiences know something's there. Don't lie about it. Like,
Yeah.
acknowledge it. I don't remember which show it was in. I may have been in Charlie Brown, but there was a piece of choreography that was swing on the poles.
Yeah.
I mean, it was annoying, but at the same time, I think everyone used it to the storytelling advantage.
I love that metaphor of like it is what the space is. It's what we have. So use it, work around it. And that can be taken in so many ways creatively. Even now, like in filmmaking, it's like, what do we have? This is in here. Oh, right. It's in the script now. Like you just use it, you know?
Your audience isn't dumb. They see the poll. Like, you can't, if you don't say something about it, they're going to be like, why is there? And so just say something and then move on and everyone will accept it. And that's the magic of theater.
Yeah, can I actually give you a quick example? I was just doing a show recently where there was no crew, there's no money for a crew, and so all the cast was like having to move boxes all the time. So one of the lines that was written into the show was they did a song, this really emotional song, and then the guy goes, "Should we move these boxes?" And then the other person goes, "Yeah, we should move the boxes." And it made me think of the poll because it's like, yeah, we got to move the boxes. You're gonna see us move the boxes. Let's talk about it. So just embrace what you have, you know.
Another thing I learned from Plaza, and this was all the shows, is and actors hate me for it when I direct, but you rehearse scene changes as much as you rehearse the scenes, and maybe even more.
Yeah,
especially in small theaters where audiences are going to be watching that. That is part of the show. So that's we had full transition rehearsals on my last on the thing I was on. And
I'll never forget Secret Garden, Wes. The Secret Garden scene changes, man. Those
were
were
the one that I remember most
legendary. Hey, I'll tell you guys too, if you weren't aware, that first space that we did this show in at 208 South Main, it is now called The Space in Cleburne, and it is now operated by Hannah Midkiff Marquin. She uses it, and they're just about to open. They actually were about to open right before the quarantine happened, but she rents it as a space that people can rent for local events. She also runs her photography business. She's fantastic. as a photographer. She runs it out of there as well. She's decorated it with all kinds of amazing interiors. But that is all inside
Yeah.
our
Huh.
original theater space.
Wow.
I think Aaron's pop. Yeah, there it is, right
I
there.
knew I had seen the title of it, but I didn't know I didn't know that it was the 208.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
she's
like-
done an incredible amount of work on it. And I will
Yeah.
tell you, she actually rents that space from us when we actually bought that building. That was our first building when we bought the space that we
Oh,
used
wow.
for our academy. So yeah, we have what we call the campus downtown, a bunch of different buildings we own and use for storage and performance, and that's one of them. But Hannah's done an amazing job in there, and going in there is very nostalgic now for us, having done this show and several others in there.
It makes
too.
me so happy that it's still like being used for creative things. You know,
Still part of the
I love
family.
that it's not like a Burger King or something. You know?
Right.
I was just sitting there yesterday, and you guys wouldn't recognize it. She's got this really cool ultra modern lighting in there. It's very white. It's beautiful, and then she has even more plans. Anyway, it's a great
That's
place,
so
and
cool.
if you're here in town, you should definitely look into it.
That's so cool.
It's really cool that it's kind of stayed in the Plaza family. I mean, Hannah,
Yeah.
you know, y'all did shows with us mostly, but she's been she and her family have been a big, huge part of Plaza. So to have her doing that is really exciting for us, kind of make it come full circle. And it was fun to go in there when she was doing the renovating and see some hints of the old space, you know, see some thing where walls were removed, and you're like, oh, which show would this be? In fact, we looked at the pole, and she was like, look at all the paint on this pole. There were so many levels of paint. I was like, we
Just
painted
layers.
touch every show. Yeah, it was really cool.
Well, y'all, it's been an absolute pleasure conversating with y'all today. I really didn't realize how good for my soul this was going to be.
Yeah.
Actually,
Same.
when Aaron had this idea, which is a fantastic one. But it was a wonderful experience, and y'all taking time today to be with us has been truly magical. So thank you so incredibly much. Aaron, do you want to kind of take us home?
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you, cast of Good Man Charlie Brown. Milette had to run. She's working today, but thank you, everyone, to stay. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We sure do appreciate you, and we hope to see everyone again real soon. We'll be back again next Monday with another Green Room conversation. So we'll let you know what show soon as we figure it out, and we'll see y'all then. Y'all take care.
Bye, everybody.